Thanks, Michael. Great to be back with the group. Great to see the guys. We had an excellent training week. Could see the focus in the team. Now we get to compete against two potential opponents in the World Cup. They can come out of Asia, so it'll be interesting to see their diverse styles and what they bring and how we can counteract that. But overall, really good week. Tomorrow we'll start the game with Matt in goal, Serginho on the right, Chris Richards and Tim Ream, Anthony Robinson on the left. It's between Luca and Tanner Tessman, center mid. Then we have Eunice, Weston, attacking mid. And then we go Christian, Ballo, and Timmy Weah across the top. Ballo will only play 45 minutes due to his lack of preseason, and we want to really get him into it in the right way. So he'll play 45 minutes at halftime. Rico will come in for him. That's it from me.
So if you're going to ask what's new, there's something for day one. We'll start with Stephen Goff from the Washington Post.
Thanks for the lineup. I assume this will be an occurrence before every game over the next couple of years, right?
Sure.
It's obviously been a while since your last game as coach. What are some of the emotions and thoughts as you enter this new stage?
I think the emotions were probably last week before you come into camp, and then when you get into camp, you just feel so comfortable, whether it's with the staff or with the players. You pick right up where you left off. And, we built some really strong relationships over these last 4 years. It was good to get in the camp and rekindle them and see the staff. The whole group has been working at a really high level for these last 8 months, and it's been really nice to see from afar.
What are some of the lessons learned over the past few years that you've been able to maybe think about as you've approached this moment?
Yeah, the way we work, Stephen, is it's for us. It's about reflecting every single moment, every single training session. So like for us, it's like, it's the culmination of things just building on top of each other. We review every session with really fine detail. Every single game with really fine detail, and we try to learn from every experience that we have together, and then keep building on it. So what I know, I think in a nutshell, I'd say that the games at the World Cup at the highest level are very difficult games. One thing we learned, the whole group learned, the group stage was like 3 finals, and then you have the knockout stage, and that's like final. Those are tough games, and you have to be resilient. You have to have a deep squad to be able to battle through those games, and you have to have a clear identity. So for us, it's continuing to build on the foundation of what we've had in the last 4 years, keep improving, and really target 2026 as an opportunity to change soccer in America forever.
Jeff Carlisle from ESPN FC.
Hi, Greg. To that end, to what degree have you had an opportunity in this camp to kind of build on things tactically and maybe add some tweaks to what you're doing? Or is it there's just not enough time given when players come in? And also, what are you expecting from Uzbekistan?
So they've been playing 5-2-3 in all of their last games. They don't give up a lot of goals. It'll be a difficult breakdown. They have a counterattacking solution on the right-hand side of the field with their winger. And they're good, technically good players. So I think it will be a difficult game. In terms of what we're trying to do is really continue that foundation that I talk about is saying, okay, we like what's been built, but we want to keep getting better. And that was the message to the guys. And then it was, okay, we have 3 years to keep improving. What phases do we need to improve, and what wrinkles do we need to put in that are going to help us get there? How do we need to support the players in a way that they can keep improving with their clubs? But overall, for us, it's just how do we keep moving forward and not being happy with where we were.
Can you give us an example of maybe one of those things that you're trying?
It's literally in everything, every aspect. It's evolving. I think it's like you'd work with any team. I don't think any team, if you look at the top teams in the world, they evolve throughout the years, and we want to be in this state of evolving because we know it's going to lead to improvement, whether that's set pieces, whether that's mid-block defending, the consistency in a mid-block, that we don't have to high press all game. There's a number of different things that we can start to talk about with the group.
Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Greg, you talked about changing soccer in America forever. Weston seemed to give us a little bit of a preview of that idea.
Yeah.
This is a unique period for American soccer and the events that are coming to this country over the next few years, the Copa America, the Club World Cup, the World Cup, potentially the Women's
Yeah.
World Cup. Obviously, Messi's here in the United States now. That kind of adds like a runway to it, to the eyeballs to this country as well in the domestic league. What have you laid out for the team about how to change soccer in America forever, what this moment means, and how you think about the next 3 years in 2026 and kind of how to accomplish that goal?
Yeah, so for us, it's really the work we can do in the next 3 years to build the group that when we go into the World Cup, we're confident that we can beat the elite of international soccer, because that's what it's going to take to do what we're talking about doing. Right? If we want to go to rounds that we've never been before, it's going to be we have to beat those teams, and we use the next 3 years to build the team up, to gain the experiences, to that we're confident that we can actually do that. And when we say, change soccer in America forever, for me, it's both on the field and off the field. We have a fantastic group of guys. I think the world got to see that in the last World Cup with their humility and how they act and what type of people they are. And, I'm excited for America to get to know the group better, both on and off the field.
Tom? No? Anything? No. Okay, great. We will go to our questions from Zoom and begin with Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Greg. Two questions, if I may. First, earlier this week, you had the team meet with program alumni in St. Louis. What was the reason for that? Why did you think that was important? When you talk about areas of improvement, I'm just curious how much scoring goals. I mean, it's obviously the hardest thing to do in the game, but how much of that is a focus? And what can you do this cycle to make sure you're creating more opportunities and finishing those opportunities when they come? Thank you.
Yeah, I think we know at the World Cup level, scoring goals is the hardest thing to do, right? Every team has difficulty doing that. So that's something that you're always working on. Every team, I believe, is working on that. We can detail some principles in the attacking third, some ways we want to break down opponents. Those are things that we've been doing. But overall, we want to position ourselves in any game against anybody to be able to win the game, and that's the most important thing. That at the end of the 90 minutes, we're the team that's leading. In terms of what this inviting the players from St. Louis that received a national team cap into camp. One thing we have is a great respect for our heritage. We know where we came from. We honor where we came from. We have a great amount of pride for representing our nation, representing the U.S. men's national team program. And it's nice to connect, I think, members from the past of that heritage to members of the now. And that's all we did. We honored them. We showed them their unique cap number in the history of U.S. soccer, and really just spent some time with them. And I know, the group appreciated it, but I know our guys did also, getting to meet some of those players.
Next will be Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
Hey, Greg. As you come into this week, what are some of the new structures or routines that you put in place that were different than the previous 3 years?
I'm not sure, Ron. I really can't, reflect on it. What we did was we took stock on what we thought was working really well, and things we thought needed improvement, and then we went, set out to make some improvement. But again, I believe, especially seeing from afar when I was out of it, the group and how they function, I thought they did a really good job. And hearing about the stories and the culture within the team, it's a really strong culture. And the way I would look at it is, again, continuing to build on this strong foundation. And that's going to take time. We have 3 years to do it. But, the foundation and the culture within the team is very strong.
Next is Henry Bushnell from Yahoo.
Thanks, Michael. Greg, you touched on Christian on the Zoom call last week. Now that you've had a chance to see him in training for a week and maybe even day-to-day away from the field, does anything feel different about him now compared to like last year at this time when he was obviously in a a very different club environment and kind of struggling through that year at Chelsea?
You know, one thing we talked about with the group was the amount of growth the individuals have made over the last 3 years or last 4 years. And, you know, to think about Christian when I first met him in Dortmund in 2018 to Christian now is night and day. And that goes for a lot of the players. And we talked about one of the challenges for the group is going to be, you know, can they have that same level of progress in these next 3 years that they've had in the last 4 years? And because Joe Scally was playing for NYCFC's youth team, 4 years ago, and now he's a consistent member of the national team. You look at Serginho Dest where he was, and by and large, every one of the players made a huge strides in these last 4 years, and that's what we need to be focused on in these next 3 years if we want to reach our goals.
Our next question comes from Brian Sciaretta from American Soccer Now.
Thank you, Michael. And Greg, earlier in the week you talked about St. Louis as a soccer city. I mean, specifically, what has made this city so great? I mean, it goes back to like 1950, and they were making an impact, and they're making an impact now. And the legacy kind of continues with like Josh Sargent and Tim. But then also, that's our first question. The second one is, I wonder if you could comment on the newcomers into camp and how they perform, specifically Kevin Brady's, Ben Kamashi, and Christopher Lund. What are they showing for your first week, and how are they integrating into the group, and what have you seen from them? Thank you.
You know, I think it's the roots. When you think about St. Louis, it's the history. You look at some of these clubs, and they've been working, they're going strong. You know, Scott Gallagher for decades have been strong clubs, and the roots with hosting games and it being a real soccer city. And I think the beauty of that is to see how soccer's grown throughout the United States, because now you can point to other markets and say, wow, they have their own soccer culture. You look at Atlanta, for example, how they came on the scene, and the fan base there, and the support for soccer is off the charts. When you look at Austin, what they've been able to do, you go Pacific Northwest and Seattle with its history, in Portland, and so soccer's spreading across the United States, and it's wonderful to see. And when you get to be here and honor some of the tradition and the roots of the game, is even more special. So, we're excited about being here, and we're excited to keep playing in other markets, honestly, to really spread what we're doing. As far as Ben, Christopher, and Kevin, they've all looked good. It's a young group. I mean, we played 7-a-side today, and we had old versus medium versus young, and like the old team is Christian, Weston, Anthony Robinson, Serginho. I mean, it's off the charts how young this group is, and to have 18, 19-year-olds in camp is really fun, and they've been doing a good job.
Next will be Joseph De Hippolito.
Thank you very much. Greg, what makes Matt Turner unique among the goalkeepers you have either played in front of or managed? And how would you describe the progress he has made since his days with New England?
Yeah, I think the obvious answer to that is his trajectory, right? It's abnormal. You don't have a guy go to Fairfield College and then start in the World Cup and for the national team. It's amazing, and it all has to do with him, what type of person he is, and his work ethic. It's been really fun for me to be part of that entire process. I remember when he's coming into his first camp. We're doing a training exercise, and he receives the ball and he goes to throw it, and then he second guesses himself and throws it into his own goal. And I immediately sent Bruce the text and said, "We're getting your guy ready for the season, Bruce." But I mean, that's literally how far Matt Turner has come, and it's been in I think that might have been in 2019, and 3 years later he's starting the World Cup. He's a tremendous guy, tremendous work ethic. His learning curve is steep. He learns really quickly and applies it. And, I think he's got a long career in the Premier League ahead of him.
Next will be Joseph Lowry.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Greg, for taking the time. You gave us the 11 earlier. Obviously, had Yunus Musa in there. What were your thoughts on him playing in a deeper role over the summer, the U.S., and could he be someone that deputizes more often for Tyler Adams when Adams is maybe unavailable or against certain types of opponents? Thanks.
I think so. I mean, it's all about the game plan, and we expect this game, to be a little bit different. We want someone in that position that will be stable in that position, be able to get the ball to him in dangerous positions. That's the idea. So, for him, we like to free him up, give him a chance to run. I think one of his greatest qualities is running with the ball. We want to put him in position to do that, attack the back line when he gets an opportunity to. But, he's I think another one with a disjointed preseason. He's at Milan. I think it's going to be a great move for him. He's comfortable there, and it will be nice to see how he develops over this fall season. And for us, we want to put him in position to go back there and be on his best foot. So giving him his game time, I think, is really important.
We'll go to Sanjay Sujan Thakumar.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Greg, for the time today. You mentioned earlier it was between Luka and Tessman in the midfield. Could you talk more about that, what goes into that decision, and more specifically what you've seen from Tessman in this camp, his progress with Venezia, and where do you think he projects positionally for club and country? Do you see him as potentially a single pivot six, or what do you think about his future? Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see how he develops. I think it's too early for me to call. He's playing, in that role with Venezia. He's moving back into a back builds, and they build with three, and he's at the center of them a lot of times. Then he moves up into midfield as the attack advances. But for us, basically, Luka, we got to check his health and his fitness. He had a little bit of a calf niggle that we have to check and make sure he's okay. If he's good, he'll start. He'll start the game, and we'll go from there. But Tanner's looks solid, and if he gets to start the game, we're extremely comfortable with what he could do.
We'll take a couple more questions and continue with Enrique Rafael.
Thanks, Michael. Good afternoon, Coach, and thank you for your time. I would like to talk about Johnny Cardoso, who was recently cut due to an injury. Well, he is of Olympic age to be drafted to the men's youth national team. So Mitrovic will do his first training session in October in the same window as the national team. My question is there a possibility that Johnny will play for both senior and youth national teams? What's the plan for him next month?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the player who's available for either team. We see him as a very high potential player. He's doing a great job with Internacional, especially in the Copa Libertadores. I'm excited to see his team continue on. I think they're in the semifinals right now. And we'll see. We'll take it as it comes. But he was a guy that was supposed to be in our camp but had to pull out because of injury on the weekend. And we'll keep monitoring him and hope he gets back on the field, and then he can join either group as we go forward.
Next is Hector Lazzeri.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, it's Hector Lazzeri from Claro Sports in Mexico City. I wanted to ask, Greg, this cycle is going to be way different than the other qualifiers. You are not going to have all the bulk of qualifiers. You're not going to have Nations League in this window. You're going to be playing mostly friendlies. What is the plan to have the great matches, those rivals, to have the experiences that you are trying to get to have the proper preparation for the 2026 World Cup, and not only having like friendlies against the same rivals like the other hosts, or maybe some teams like right now Uzbekistan and Australia that are perhaps not the rivals that fans are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this window in particular, getting the opportunity to play against Asian competition when we won't be able to do that, for the next 2 years is valuable. I mentioned that these are two teams that could potentially be in the World Cup, so I think it's nice to be able to play them. Looking out for the rest of the year, we have friendlies in October against Germany and Ghana, which will be good games. We have Nations League in November, Nations League in March. So that's a chance to win another trophy for this group, and which we're focused on, and will also get us into Copa America in the summer. So then finishing out the rest of that year or that summer, we'll have friendlies that we hope to play good, strong opponents in June, and then Copa America, which we know is going to be a very competitive tournament. So I think that for the that first year of the World Cup is is an exciting year, and it's going to help build the group for sure.
Our last question today comes from Andrew Jones.
Thank you, Michael. Greg, just want to ask you, how did Christian and Weston feel about being part of the Old Group? And your thoughts about the added time being implemented and you make the Big Five leagues this season and how it's been going in your mind? Thank you.
Yeah, they were shocked. I think that's something that they were really surprised. They don't know how time flies. They still think they're one of the younger guys in the team, and they're not. They're senior players, so they're really surprised. And I think they didn't take it too well. So we'll have to talk to them this afternoon, get them in better spirits. That the time question is a really interesting one. What do you guys think, Paul? What do you think?
I think you have to do it to try to change the way teams approach stoppages during the game.
Yeah.
It's a long play.
I agree. I agree with that. I think it's in soccer we like tradition. We like things how they've always been. But I agree that I think this is a way for the fans to get their money's worth, to see the amount of time in play that they deserve. And it can potentially change tactics from players when they're staying down because they know the time's added anyway. And it's not going to do any good for them to stay down on the field and waste time. So I think I'm in favor of it, but I reserve the right to change my decision.